Well, good evening, and tonight is a very important night, and I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. And thank you so much, Sally Rivendiera, which says, "I love those ripples of peace." And there's a story about the ripples of peace, which is a fascinating story, and some of you may know this, but the ripples of peace that you see, that's the concentric circles that you see in front of Camelot Castle, were created when 9/11 happened over 20 years ago, and we knew that the British and the Americans had agreed to bomb Afghanistan. And we opposed that decision then in our newspapers, and in fact our newspapers in London were the first newspapers to point out that the bombing of Afghanistan would be a war crime. And we lit a beacon here at Camelot Castle on the headland, and over 800 people turned up. And you can see this newspaper article on the Camelot Castle website. And 800 people turned up here, and that became the Stop the War movement. We went up to Westminster Hall and delivered a speech with Anthony Wedgwood Benn. And Sir Anthony Wedgwood Benn and myself were very good friends. I'd known him since I was 7 years old. And we very much opposed, and we said at the time that this would be one of the greatest wastes of resources, of treasure, of life, and it would be completely unnecessary. And here we are today, 500 yards away from the ripples of peace, sitting here in the Infinity Salon. And what has happened? In the last 48 hours, we are now back to square one, and Afghanistan is now back in the hands of the Taliban and back in the hands of its indigenous population. You know, our leaders really should take the time to study history. Afghanistan has never been a sensible place to invade. Basically, forget the religious extremism for 1 second, because, you know, one man's religious extremism is another man's religious moderation. So I'm not going to get into the subject of religion tonight. I'm just going to get into geography, really. And when you get into Afghanistan, you realize that the country itself is very uninvadable. It is not an easy country to invade. It's incredibly mountainous, and the supply lines in and out of the critical areas are almost impossible to negotiate without huge expense. And of course, the British discovered this to their chagrin, and it was a disaster for them in the 18th century. In the 19th century, it was a disaster. It was a disaster when we went in again. It was a disaster for the Russians, of course. Their invasion of Afghanistan cost them dearly, and it has now been an absolute copper-bottomed disaster. And of course, it is actually a very interesting thing. Now, I have a viewpoint here that, of course, what's going on there with the soldiers and anybody that is a refugee at the moment, this is a tragedy. But there is a silver cloud to all of this. And I want each and every one of you to understand this silver cloud, because it's important and could even be considered a gift from God. You see, what is going on now in Afghanistan is a perfect example of the total incompetence of our government here in the UK and of the American leadership that is currently occupying the White House. We just saw President Biden read a script that somebody else had written from him on a teleprompter, and then take no questions, I gather. So clearly we're dealing with a total incompetent in the White House. And isn't it interesting that within 6 months of President Trump leaving office, wars are cropping up all over the world? And you have to really start to understand that this is all completely and utterly intentional and completely and utterly avoidable. There is no reason for any country to be at war with any other country. There exists now a technology in Scientology called superpower technology. And this technology, as many of you know, has the capacity to bring about the end of wars, and of course has already prevented several wars. But of course, this technology has to be used. If you want to start to understand that technology, go to Scientology.tv and watch the video on there, The Third Party Law. And this explains the root cause of wars, the third party law. And as I say, this short video will explain to you the cause of wars. Obviously, what we are now going to witness from our government and from the American government, such as it is, even if you could even, I'm not sure we can really even describe these things as governments anymore. We might as well call it the British confusion and the American confusion. But what these confusions are now going to be doing is creating a further example of just how corrupt and evil the deep state are. And it is very, very interesting. So we're joined here by some wonderful, wonderful people. Do share where you are from. I'm just going to read out a few names here because Jane Cole Marshall is with us. Now, she is a great freedom fighter. Sue Chippendale is with us. Isabel de Suter is with us from Belgium. Gila Kaufman from Israel. Jill Armand is with us. Sarah Schofield is with us. Guillermo Montesinos is with us. There we go. He's watching from Clearwater in Florida. What a sensible place to be. In Clearwater, you actually have, by the way, for those of you that don't know, the headquarters or the main delivery facility of the Church of Scientology. And you can go there actually and you can receive today superpower technology, which will change your life utterly. Do find out all about it if you get a chance. Sue Chippendale, Sally Riviendera, Peggy McHale from New York City, Shelley Strathatha Holt is with us, Sheila Pratt is with us, Mandy Lee is with us. That's nice, Mandy. Lovely to see you. I remember Mandy. Linda Hanley, hi from South Yorkshire. Torbjörn Markusen, all these names, I hope I'm saying them right. Michelle Blom, Sally Riviendera, Mandy Lee, Joe Cheeseman. Now, I'm just trying to get the, here we go. Trying to get the Wi-Fi correctly done here. How is it? We're trying to get it all rigged up properly. It should be working properly, but anyway. Simon Richards is here. Looking much younger each day. Well, my wife has got me on this fabulous keto diet. And I've lost over 12 kilos on it, which is very good. Dr. Berg is the expert on this, if you want to understand how that works. And it's funny, you don't feel hungry about it. Sue Chippendale says, Afghanistan, isn't it all about the lithium? Well, it's not. One of the things it's not about is it's not about what we're being told. That's for sure. Simon Richard says, technically it's brilliant for Donald Trump. Of course it is. I mean, let's just be completely frank here. Would this situation be occurring if President Trump was in the White House? That's the only question that needs to be being asked today. If Joe Biden was not the president and President Trump was the president of the United States, would this be happening? Of course it wouldn't. Joe Katsuma says, total incompetence. I agree. They won't negotiate with Sleepy Joe. They only recognize Donald Trump as the leader. Well, he is still the de facto leader of Charlie Barton. Hello, how are you? Gila Kaufman, Scientology TV. That is the address you go to watch the Third Party Law, for those of you that are interested. Gail Stewart says, hello from Scotland. I'm going to be up in Scotland soon. Virginia Piera, Darcy Goodall, Michael Blom, Julia from Clearwater. Paul Johnson is joining us. How nice to hear you, Paul. Lovely to see you. Chris Ram is from Dorset, most beautiful county in England, really, other than Cornwall. Manon from Quebec. Jonah Shaughnessy is with us. Sheila Pratt is with us. Greg Boyd is with us. Forgive my missing a zero, maybe, but US taxpayers paid $70 million to build the US embassy in Afghanistan to be evacuated by helicopter. Well, this is the problem of weak leadership. So there we go. Hagit Eliav is now at East Grinstead. How lovely. Marnie James is from Dorset. Keith Marshall. My gosh, I can't read everybody out, but John Harp Dalton is with us, and John is the most fabulous harpist. John, how are you? Can you remember being here at Camelot when we were campaigning? And in fact, I think John was here with us when we were campaigning, and we created the Ripples of Peace, and we said at the time that was a complete travesty of justice and that it would be a disaster, and we both agreed about that. And here we are, and how much money has been wasted, how much treasure has been wasted, and it is a ghastly thing. Now, I know that I am a bit wasteful when it comes to fireworks, but at least they're colourful and they give a good show and they don't, on the whole, hurt anybody. But the amount of fireworks that have been blown up over in Afghanistan is just horrendous. And what about all those young men that gave their lives? Sheila Pratt says, love the colour of your room. Beautiful. Well, this is, just so you know, this is the Infinity Salon at Camelot Castle. And my dear wife, it used to be the ballroom here. And we still do dance in here once in a while. Especially when our more notorious friends from London or from the more nightclubby sections of the world. Tanya Nay says, hello from corrupt Rhode Island. We just made one of the most corrupt states in the USA. But it is all coming to light, isn't it? It is all coming to light. But as I say, this is the Infinity Salon, and it sits at the birthplace of King Arthur at Camelot Castle. And we are broadcasting tonight live from Camelot TV Network. Now, I just, a lot of you are watching your televisions and you are looking at what's going on in Afghanistan. And you're saying, this is an absolute disaster. And my point is this, and the point I wanted to make to you, is that as upsetting as obviously it is for the families who get on the wrong side of this, and for the people that get on the wrong side of this, for the women and children that are going to have a harder time as a result of this, and of course many of the men on both sides. This is a tragedy on one level. But the truth of the matter is, what is truly going on here? Order is going in to planet Earth, and confusion is flying off. And what happens is, as you bring order, sometimes noise and confusion is associated to that. The trick is to keep bringing order. And I just want to, again, thank all of you. I have noticed that a lot more of you are following our Telegram channel, Camelot Castle TV Network on Telegram, and a lot more of you are actually engaging in Camelot TV Network Hub, which of course is the live hive mind of Camelot Castle TV. And I want to thank all of you for all of those postings that you put up there every day, because I do try and read every one of them. And when you put up something that can help the freedom movement, then what we do is we then forward that out through our networks around the world. So I can't begin to thank you enough. Please do. Roger, we're joined here. Roger, don't worry. We work to your schedule. You don't work to ours. Roger Lyle is the incredibly busy, incredibly erudite. I would say he is the chairman of the local parish council of Tintagel. He has one of the most interesting Facebook groups in Facebook. It's called the Tintagel Voice. Do join it if you want to get an understanding of the local community, or if you like Tintagel and you want to support Tintagel. We've got all sorts of new projects that Roger has shared that he may be advancing for the village, and I'm very, very delighted that he is parish chairman of the parish council, because after his tenure, I think Tintagel is going to take off like a rocket. Some of the ideas that he's got up his sleeve are very, very exciting. But if you out there would like to do anything at all to help the village of Tintagel, let us know, or more importantly, let Roger Lyle know, because he is in charge of the village, basically. That's Roger's role. And he's got so many, we're picking up so many friends in Tintagel, and of course even in Boscastle is getting very envious now of the Tintagel Village Council, the local parish council here. And in Camelford, you see, they don't have the leadership that we have we don't have weak leadership here in Tintagel. We've got no Joe Biden here. We've got Roger Lyle. And this is very good indeed, because, it doesn't matter if it's the local parish council or the President of the United States. You need strong, decisive leadership, and people that do what they say they're going to do, and people that get things done. That's what's needed. And see, Tony Cato says, this is where it all changes, the great awakening of Trump 2021. Well, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Liz Reeby says she loves Tintagel. Who here on this broadcast, watching this broadcast, loves Tintagel? Because if you do, go to the Tintagel Voice group on Facebook and join that group. And you will learn all about the debates that we're having. We had somebody raised a very, very good point about our toilets in Tintagel recently on that. And so if you want to get into the toilet debate, the great toilet debate of Tintagel, then the Tintagel Voice is the place for you. Now, Ruth Phillips says, looking forward to seeing you at the beginning of September. Adore Tintagel. Well, you must join Tintagel Voice. Chris Rahm says, love Tintagel. Chris, you must join the Tintagel Voice. Marnie James says, love Tintagel and tea at, where? Camelot Castle. Of course. Fantastic. Darcy Goodall, visit and I love it. Claire Daniels says, I love Tintagel. Julie Carnell says we love Tintagel. And there's a reason for that. Is because Tintagel is the friendliest village in all of Cornwall, probably in all of England. We have fantastic leadership in Mr. Lyle, who is the chairman of the parish council and who leads the village beautifully. And it's actually a state secret that Roger Lyle, his family empire, if you like, founded Camelot Castle. And we had a long discussion, because it is actually the case that I don't know how to say this without his family was responsible for the founding energy that made Camelot Castle possible in its current form. So this is very good, and so he's always welcome here. He's a marvellous, marvellous fellow. So Marnie James says, love our loos. Are you talking about the Tintagel loos or the Camelot Castle loos? Because toilet politics is basically, it's all going down on the Tintagel Voice, trust me. We've got varying numbers of opinions. So there we go. Thank you very much, Mandy. This is the, I've just put the link up on the screen. This is the Camelot Castle TV network. Now, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I would love to get into a complete deep dive with you and hand over all the state secrets that we have been trusted with today by various different intelligence networks around the world. However, I can't do that on here. I can only do that on Camelot Castle Telegram, on the Telegram network, where the link is there on the screen. Or there it is. That's the link there. So if you go there, you get all the meat and potatoes. And if you go into the Camelot TV chat group, then you do that. So you can chat back and forth to each other, and you can get to know each other, and you network. The most powerful thing happens when people of goodwill network together. And what would be the most helpful thing? People always ask me, John, what could we do to help you? Well, let me tell you what we don't need. We don't want your money. We're doing this for free. We do not want your money. We may ask you for money later, but not now. Not now. We don't want your money now. Okay? So we don't need donations or anything like that. But what we do need is we do need your help in spreading the word. Because our weapon here is the truth. Now, the problem is that Twitter and YouTube and the platforms that this goes out on get censored. So what we have to do is we have to use these platforms to communicate and then give you the meat and potatoes on Telegram. So if you could just do that, that would be wonderful. Joseph Bova says, I love Tintagel and I've never even been there. Well, why do you love Tintagel, Joseph? I mean, well, it's a lovely place. How did you hear about Tintagel? Join the Tintagel Voice book. Wonderful wise words. John, we were in Tintagel 2 years ago from Australia and wondered about the great looking castle that was across from the remains of the original one. And you didn't come in. Well, come back and come and have tea and a bit of tart or crumpet. We love that. Marianne McDonald, we love Tintagel. Paul John says, we come to Exeter end of August. Maybe we can get to Tintagel. Paul, if you don't get down here, that's not right. You need to come all the way to Tintagel. Tintagel today, and I say this with some confidence, is the epicenter of sane political and geopolitical and geo-civilizational thought in the world. And I can say that with absolute confidence. There is no location on planet Earth where there is a greater gathering of political sanity than Camelot Castle, Tintagel, Cornwall, and the village of Tintagel is just fantastic. It is nearly gossip free. Nearly gossip free. Destina Glass says she loves Tintagel. Marnie James says Camelot Castle lose, love the wallpaper. Well, I'll lose. Now Joe Katsuna says overcharged toilets in Tintagel. So they're charging for the toilets in Tintagel. So yes, the Tintagel toilet debate is Dillis Hughes says, do you have to put a penny in the slot? Hi, John Mappin. Hi, Joanne. The Telegram is really good information. Thanks very much. It is good information. And that we can get into all of the this and the that. All the things that all the questions that you have ever wanted to ask, the answers for you you will find them in two places. You will find them at Scientology.tv. That's for any spiritual questions. Any of you that have ever wanted to know, is there such a thing as God? And somebody says, well, take it from me, there is. Well, that's not good enough for some people. Some people want the evidence of God. Well, you'll find that at Scientology.tv. Some people want to know, am I immortal? And somebody says to you, yes, of course you're immortal. Take it from me. Take it on faith that you are immortal. Well, that's not good enough for some people. Some people want to see the scientific evidence, and you'll find that at Scientology.tv. And some people say, well, what's going to happen to me when the body dies? And somebody says, oh, don't worry, you'll go to heaven. And somebody else says, oh, don't worry, well, you'll reincarnate. And of course, Jesus talked about going to heaven, and Jesus talked about the reincarnation of John the Baptist. And somebody says, well, that's all true, take it from me. And somebody says, well, that's not quite good enough. As much as I respect Jesus, as much as I love Jesus, I want to see for myself. I want to know what happens to me when the body dies. And so you will find all of that evidence exists if you simply go to Scientology.tv. It's a very, very useful thing. So that's spiritual truth. But the thing is that Scientology never gets into politics, you see, and you're never going to hear anything political from any church of Scientology. They're just not a political activity, and they're never going to comment on anything political or medical, actually. Nothing medical, nothing political. They're going to leave all of that completely and utterly up to you. So, you see, my interest, I've been interested in Scientology, but I've also been very interested in geopolitics. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if there was some knowledge that we could apply to the field of geopolitics? How could we actually bring about the end of wars? And funnily enough, it turns out that in the subject of Scientology, there is a little bit of information that can prevent wars very, very effectively. And so that's one of the ways that we use what we've learned as, let's say, parishioners or students of the subject of Scientology, and so we then take that information and we then apply that in the political sphere as individuals, not as executives in any way, or as anybody that is representing any church in any way, but just as a private, you could say, hobby would be a good way of saying it. And my simple thing is that if there's a piece of information that's useful, well, then share it. You know, share what you know. That's really our philosophy. And it's really, really interesting. Now, people there talking about Tintagel sounds like theta is very lovely. Tintagel is a lovely, lovely place. John Martin says we'll be back. Paul Johnson says we'd best get there. Julie Carnell says see you on the 27th. Fantastic. The party's on the Friday, by the way, Julie. 9 o'clock on the Friday. Would so love to come to visit. Was booked to come to Cornwall last September. Roger Lars says the toilets are free at the moment. Well, that's good to know. Thank you very much. That's the Tintagel toilets. Pray for Mel Gibson. Very uplifting. Julie Hirsch. Look at this. Now, here is somebody. I'm going to read this out because I think I'm a believer in free speech. And what she's written here, she says, Scientology is a fucking scam, dude. WTF. I don't know what that means. Now, that is her opinion. And of course, as we all know, opinions are like belly buttons. Everybody's got one. And this is Julie's. I don't know if that's a picture of Julie. That looks to me like the Damien Hirst diamond skull. So we don't have a picture of Julie Hirsch, but this is Julie's opinion. Now, I've been a Scientologist for over 30 years, and I have never come across any form of, dissembling or anything in it that I haven't considered to be truthful. So that's not been my experience of it. And different people have different experiences of all things, So you are welcome to have that opinion. That's not been my experience. And I have found it to be a wonderfully, wonderfully helpful thing. Now, what has happened is because Scientology contains a cure for drug addiction, it also contains a cure for depression, and it also helps bring about the end of wars. This upsets a few people, and there are a few people out there, and I'm not suggesting that Julie is one of them, that like to profit from drugs. And they don't like the idea that somebody could be cured from depression because they can't then sell their antidepressants. And so what these people do is they spend hundreds of millions paying off journalists to give people, and I'm not saying Julie's one of them, incorrect perceptions about Scientology because they print silly things about it in the newspaper. Now, of course, 30 years ago, I'd read all this stuff and I'd seen sort of the Daily Mail version. And I realized that it was, one side of the story. And so what I did is I took the time to take a look at it for myself. And maybe you already have done, Julie, maybe you haven't, maybe that is your genuine opinion, and you're welcome to it. But it's not mine, but I thought I would, I think it's very important. I'm asking Twitter to give me the freedom to speak. And I'm asking Facebook to give me the freedom to speak. And so I support your freedom of speech as well, Julian. Thank you for your contribution. How much to put my camper on your drive? Camper vans. I actually love camper vans, so you can put it there for nothing. If it's a good one. I really like camper vans. In fact, I'm thinking about getting a camper van. My friend Alfie Best has just bought a company called The Room, where you can rent a camper van. And I'm very tempted to rent one of his camper vans and go on a holiday. Who here fancies the idea of a camper van holiday? Tudor Tutor says, the evidence of God you will find only in the Church of Jesus. That is the Greek Orthodox Church. Well, Tudor, again, that is your opinion, and I'm absolutely sure that the evidence of God does exist, because you're telling me, and I have no reason to doubt you, in the Greek Orthodox Church. I have also seen that evidence, personally, and I can only speak from my own personal experience, within the writings of L. Ron Hubbard, and I came across those in a Church of Scientology. So, I'm not one of these people that says all roads lead to Rome, but maybe more than one road leads to Rome. So there we go. Lisa Marie Rappaport says, just join the Telegram channel. All sorts of people are saying all sorts of things on here. Anyway, here we go. I'm just... Well, Paul Johnson says, I've been in Scientology since 1991. Never felt scammed, just been helped in more ways that I can describe. There you go, Paul. So, isn't that nice? So he's got a similar experience to me, but he's probably got a different experience to me. Ton Raves, who is a great supporter of the channel, says, I do not like the language Julie Hirsch uses. May we please be a bit more polite? I don't mind her language, Tom. She's, I've known people, some of the brightest people that I've known have sworn like troopers. So I really don't mind poor language. It's up to you how you use English language. That is your freedom. It is a very rich language, and there are many, many words to choose from. But the words you choose are up to you entirely. And I'm more or less unoffendable. Garvin Reynolds. We are joined by Garvin Reynolds, who is a fantastic leader of thought and opinion within Tintagel. He has been an ally of Camelot Castle and Camelot Castle's TV since its inception. He is a wonderful, wonderful man. Why have we not seen you, Garvin, since we've been open? I thought that the cull may have gotten you, but it obviously hasn't. You're here, you're alive, you're kicking. Fantastic news. Garvin Reynolds is a resident, a long-term resident, one of the most respected, noble families in Tintagel. He has a fantastic wife. He has a delightful son and a wonderful, wonderful grandson as well, who is very good friends with my son. And Garvin is one of the great, great intellectual minds of Tintagel. And he is very, very special indeed. And we're very, very fond of him. What a wonderful guy. And you know what? It's with people like Garvin, and I'm sure he's very close friends with Roger Lyle as well. We are going to cause a renaissance in the village of Tintagel, because everybody all over the world is talking about Tintagel. Because where other villages in Cornwall have failed to deliver to the influx of holiday guests, we never fail to service somebody. And I've heard stories of restaurants here, bending over backwards to service their customers, staying open late in order to make sure that Cornish pasty is delivered to the hungry tourist that is doing well. And John Harpdon says, well and bravely said, John, freedom of speech can certainly mean that some people will feel offended at times, but without it we descend rapidly into a cold and humorless nightmare as described in Orwell's 1984. That's right, John, and I think we're on exactly the same page here. We've been friends for many, many years, and what was that saying? What my granny said to me, because I came back from school crying one day, and somebody had said something rude to me, and she taught me this little poem. She said, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." And where is this poem these days? I mean, it almost seems as if every single person has got something to be offended about, and they're weeding out all sorts of things. Well, actually, Dan Field Roberts says here, "I've been in Scientology for 11 years. I found it extremely enlightening and has genuinely helped me in all aspects of my life." Very nice. But listen, let's be completely honest. There are millions of Scientologists around the world. Not all of them are perfect human beings. I am one of the least perfect individuals that you're ever going to run into. But, it's a great treasure in life sometimes to be willing to inspect one's flaws. Now, I tell you who did a very, very good example of this, and if you haven't seen the show, you must watch it. It is called Undercover Boss, and my dear friend Alfie Best was the star of it on its first episode this week. And I have to say, I think he did a fantastic job because he went in undercover. He pretended to be the plumber at one of his mobile home parks. And he did so well. Sheila Pratt says, "Can you be a Christian as well as a Scientologist?" Yes, I am a Christian and I'm a Scientologist. Yes, no problem at all. And here we go. And Blake, who many thought was mad, said, "Honour the fool's reproach, for it is a kingly title." Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So here we are. We have the Afghanistan situation. 20 years ago, the Ripples of Peace, which you will see in the closing sequence of this broadcast, was created at Camelot. And the whole idea of the Ripples of Peace is that we can drop pearls of wisdom into the world, and somehow that truth will ripple out across the world here from Camelot Castle, or from wherever you choose to communicate truth, because you, of course, are the epicenter of your own communications network. King Arthur had over 300,000 heralds. Over 300,000. And I'd like to build up the Camelot Castle network on Telegram up to at least over 300,000. I'd like to get it up to 1 million. So I really need your guys' help with this, because we are going to be sharing some of the most... this game, by the way, you may be tired of 2020 and 2021. Trust me, we haven't even started. We haven't even begun to bring down the deep state yet. This isn't even the starter. If we were sitting down to a dinner, this is like the sort of amuse-bouche from the chef has just come out, and he's given you a little bit of sort of cauliflower soup or something with a bit of jam in the middle of it to make it peculiar, as they tend to these days. But no, you're just experiencing all of COVID, the whole of COVID, the whole of, the vaccine, anti-vax, pro-vax, whatever. We can't say what we are on here because we're all censored. But whatever, all to do with the medical procedures, all of this stuff. This is just amuse-bouche. This is just the beginning of the beginning of the beginning. And for those of you that are exhausted, you'd better garner up to you your energy. You'd better take a walk to Boscastle and back before lunch. Before you have your lunch, because you need to work up an appetite for what's coming. And it's going to be very, very exciting indeed. So this is why we need your help in building up the network. And it would be very, very nice. John Martin says, "Would love to hear you play the harp." John, I am a pianist myself. Well, funnily enough, if you go to the Camelot Castle TV network channel, there is actually a video of John somewhere playing the harp, and I'll see if I can find that. Maybe I'll play that. Really good, really good. He is an amazing harpist. Paul Culler says, "Do you still go to your Scientology organization and do courses, John?" Yes, I do. I'm actually right now auditing myself at home, which is a lovely thing to do, which is part of a procedure that you do. Auditing is a procedure that one does in Scientology to hopefully raise one's awareness if you do it right. And yes, I do that at home. And I also have a fantastic library here and have virtually every single book that L. Ron Hubbard ever wrote and every lecture that he ever gave that is available. So, and most of them are available. So yes, absolutely. You see, this is perhaps, John Dalton says very wisely, this is perhaps the rousing of the truth seekers from their sleep. Well, that's exactly what we intend to do, John. And, thankfully you're on the team and many others are on the team. And it is so important to share the truth with every single person. As our dear friend, our Lord Jesus Christ said, some seeds fall on stony ground and some seeds fall on good ground. And I know that all of you are very, very good ground. And Dilys Hughes says, the book I liked, Have You Lived Before This Lifetime? That was a book by L. Ron Hubbard that he wrote all about past lives. Absolutely, Dilys, great book. And we have it here in our library. How about that? It's a fantastic book. But there's all sorts of good books, and we're not just here to talk about Scientology. We're here actually tonight to talk about, there's one thing I want you to look at yourself, and this is only going to be true for you if you can see this yourself. But can you see that what is going on in Afghanistan is the most fantastic opportunity for the entire world to see the blatant incompetence of leadership in our governments? And I've said I'm not going to call them governments anymore. I'm going to call them, it's not called the British government, it's called the British confusion. It's not called the American government, it's the American confusion. This is not governing, it's confusing people. And it is so important that we see that this is a wonderful opportunity for the world, and a very, very positive thing for the world. And there's one thing that I would like each and every one of you to do tomorrow. I'd like you to think of somebody that you had a disagreement with, and I think we can all think of one person, and I'm not asking you to say who it was. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to find a nice picture postcard, and I'd like you to write on that postcard, hello, let's say they're called Fred or Edwina. Let's say you had an argument with an Edwina, or you had an argument with Fred. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to send them a postcard that says very simply, hello, Fred or Edwina or X. I mean, you put their proper name, you don't put Fred and Edwina. You think of who it is and you use their name. And you say, dear Mr. X, you put the name where the X is. How are you doing? Much love, and then you put your name. And you put a stamp on the postcard and put their address on that postcard. And I'm just asking you to do it to one person that you've had a disagreement with. Try that. See what happens. Quite magical. And then the next day, if there's another person you've had a disagreement with, well, you could do the same with them. Now, what do you think would happen if people did that across the world? What do you think would happen if we restored communication lines with people with whom we had had a disagreement? What do you think would happen? It's a very interesting thing. And if nothing happens, nothing happens. But what if something does happen? It's just a thought for today. You see, one of the things that we keep getting fixated by is all the negative things going on in the world. What about creating, each and every one of us, some positive things? Why don't we think of something that we could do? To improve the situation. Why don't we do that? See if we can improve life a little bit. And there are all sorts of ways that you can do that, and I'm sure you've got some tricks up your sleeve, but I thought I'd just, yes. Ton Rave says, Dear Matt Hancock, how are you doing? Well, why not? Why not? Why not? Yeah, you can do that if you like. I don't know his address. Perhaps you do. Perhaps he's a friend of yours. See, John Hart Dalton says this time needs a resurrection of truth in political life, in the media, in business. I think so. I think so. I think so. Anyway, those are my thoughts for this evening. What is happening across the world today, as negative as it may seem to you, is a gift from the Creator. Embrace it, welcome it, do whatever you can to wake up your fellow human beings, and may God bless you. From Camelot Castle, and I'm going to play the closing sequence, and as you see the ripples of peace come up on the screen, what I want you to do is I want you to make a wish for the world. When you see the ripples of peace, make a wish for the world and write it in the comments. Thank you so much. Good night, and we will see you very, very soon for a cup of tea, a bit of crumpet or tart, and we will very much enjoy being of service to you in the future.